Hello everyone, and let's talk about cracking the code of resistance to learning about generative AI among your employees. So the problem with generative AI learning is that lots of employees express resistance to it. A lot of it comes because of fears of job loss due to generative AI. And this is justified. PwC surveys saw 27% slower job growth in AI-exposed occupations. And there's also additional factor of complexity of AI tools that makes employees worry about how well they will learn these tools. So leaders must address the concerns expressed to make sure that employees learn about generative AI effectively. To do so, you need to build trust to overcome resistance. Be transparent about the purpose of generative AI in your enterprise. Ideally, generative AI will be a tool that enhances rather than replaces jobs, and you should talk about that if that's your intention in your organization. You might also consider the possibility of replacing jobs, but if so, you need to be transparent and tell people that those people who will learn generative AI most effectively will be the ones who will keep their jobs. That will help provide a motivation. But that's a different type of motivation than, hey, this is just a job enhancer, not a replacer. So you want to think about the culture of your enterprise and what you want to do. Okay, going on, you want to demonstrate generative AI tools like ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, Anthropic's Claude, and so on in real-world contexts, and show the alignment between upskilling and personal career growth. Again, whether you don't replace anyone with generative AI or you do, it's still going to be the people who learn how to use generative AI effectively who will definitely keep their jobs. Then make sure that generative AI learning is accessible to all, to various roles and experience levels. You can use microlearning with brief engaging content modules, for example. I find that to be effective among my clients. Use real-world examples from your enterprise or similar enterprises to show the practical benefits of generative AI for your employees. Have hands-on workshops where employees can build confidence and have approachable learning paths through platforms like Coursera or LinkedIn Learning. Now, people will struggle, so you want to address this emotional resistance and normalize the struggles and failures as part of learning about generative AI. Share examples of leaders overcoming generative AI learning challenges and reward people's learning milestones with certificates and other sorts of incentives, badges, and so on. Have that publicly recognized efforts for learning to boost motivation and morale, and have a psychologically safe environment for experimentation where your people can experiment and learn and make mistakes without being too afraid of the consequences. Now I'll tell you about a mid-sized financial services firm with which I worked that encountered some resistance to generative AI training, where employees saw AI as very complex, irrelevant to their tasks. A lot of that came from fears of job security and unclear applications to their contexts. So, the leadership worked with me to build an inclusive training strategy with the goal of addressing people's concerns, simplifying learning, showing the relevance of generative AI, growing engagement, and boosting productivity. So here's what we did. First, I did an anonymous survey to identify the fears that people, like redundancy and complexity of the content and irrelevance of generative AI to specific roles. Then we made town halls. We had town halls where this company did not intend to replace people with generative AI, it intended to enhance them. So maybe less future people will be hired, but the current people will be let go. And leaders shared real-world success stories from other companies that inspired them to adopt generative AI. Next, we adopted learning paths like Learn AI in 10 minutes a day to have bite-sized modules. We had interactive tutorials supported by real-time generative AI chatbots and had human specialists for really tough questions. And we had training that was tailored to job roles in the company itself based on what other companies did. We also made sure that early adopters, who we labeled as AI champions, led peer-to-peer training sessions. And we had some good results, with 45% of employees completing free AI modules in 6 months, and productivity increased by 13% with momentum growing in later months. Now, I would have liked things to go faster, but the leadership was overall so the progress is acceptable given the firm had a conservative culture, and the gains did accelerate toward the end of the 6 months. So there's optimism for continued growth as engagement strategies are improved, and we are shifting focus to integrating the sustained techniques to driving long-term success that we learned during this initial introduction. Now, remember, the resistance to generative AI can stifle organizational growth, so address barriers to make sure that your company is positioned to thrive in AI-driven industries, and you will succeed in the increasingly generative AI-informed world of tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show. Please make sure to subscribe wherever you checked out the show and leave a review. It helps others discover the show and helps us improve the show. And if you have any questions, email me at gleb@disasteravoidanceexperts.com.